Every now and again on the Black Bear Barbell Podcast, we talk about a subject that's a little bit touchy. Today, I want to bring you one of those conversations where we discuss whether or not bringing your food scale and tracking your macros at a restaurant is something that you should be doing. It is really packed with a lot of actionable tips, but also a lot of philosophy, a lot of how we view the world of dieting. So I think this will be really impactful. If you want to check out the full episode, as well as all other episodes of the Black Bear Barbell Podcast, there is a playlist linked on the front page of my YouTube channel. If not, enjoy this conversation. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay.
So the question is, for those who eat out at places that don't provide nutritional values, what's your approach to best estimate your macros for the meal? Like if it's a pasta dish, do you take all the pasta out of the container, weigh it yourself, and maybe add 20% to that weight, for example, or perhaps use a multiplier? I know I can just go off nutritional values from recipes random people upload online, but I don't really trust those because most people who upload nutritional label info can't even get it right when the numbers are right there. Thanks. Okay. This is one of those questions where we're not really going to answer the question. We're going to talk about the macro issue here.
Yeah. Well, to answer the question, I think you could separate you could weigh your pasta.
You could definitely do that.
But what is it really that
in my
important?
opinion, if you are so obsessed with the weight and nutritional value that you are bringing a scale to a restaurant, we are trending towards disordered eating patterns. Mm-hmm. Now, if you are a competitive bodybuilder, there is no way that if you are 2 weeks out and you're trying to get stage lean, that you're going to a restaurant anyway. Right. Exactly.
You're doing it wrong.
You need that level of control. So you can go out, but you better bring your meal with you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly.
And just have fun with your friends.
Temporary.
But eat your own thing.
And you're going to come off of that ideally in an off-season context and try and repair your relationship to food.
Yeah. And eat whatever kind of pasta you feel like
because
you can eat.
Bodybuilding does provide an opportunity to become very hyper fixated on nutrition, which we know can cause some disordered eating patterns. So a healthy bodybuilding model is one in which during competition prep, yes, you are hyper focused. You have a goal to get as lean as possible
for 2 to 3 weeks.
No, I mean, it's going to be a prep is going to be 16 weeks.
Oh, geez.
So that is why it's so important to have a set off-season time when you can try and repair that relationship. And there's going to be a lot more
and
research.
Repair your body.
Yes, that too. But I'm more thinking about the mental side of bodybuilding in this. But there's going to be a lot more research that comes out in the next couple of years that's going to talk about how easy it is to fall into disordered eating patterns with bodybuilding. I think especially on the natural side of bodybuilding, like the big black sheep for bodybuilding is PED use. But on the natural side of things, the big black sheep is disordered eating. Yeah. Nobody really wants to talk about it, but it is part of the sport. And I think ethically for me as a coach, I coach only natural athletes right now because I don't have the experience to coach untested athletes. So I try and keep my roster to just tested. But I also think ethically as a coach, you have to discuss these signs of disordered eating patterns. Obviously, I am not a medical professional and I cannot diagnose. I would never do that. But what I would say is, hey, let's talk a little bit about what your relationship with food is. And if I do see those warning patterns, it is my job to then recommend that they see a specialist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and go talk to somebody. Yeah.
Because eating disorders are incredibly dangerous on either side of the spectrum. Incredibly, incredibly dangerous. So I think that you need to start to recognize some of those signs in yourself. And if you are a coach, like I'm talking from a coach's perspective, recognize some of those signs in your athletes and start to say, hey, maybe we don't need to intervene with a medical professional right now, but let's start to be a little bit more mindful with how we're eating. And then if it continues, I'm going to recommend that you go see a specialist. Because
I'm concerned about you.
Exactly.
Let's talk to someone about it.
It has always been my opinion that I am doing this coaching thing to provide a better quality of life for people. Now, I do take on bodybuilders, and during bodybuilding prep, you are not going to have a better quality of life than when you're outside of prep. You're just not. It takes a lot to get you stage lean, and it's very difficult, and it is very much a disordered pattern of eating.
Yeah.
But we kind of say for a season, we're going to lean into that. So then outside of that competition prep, it's important to kind of get yourself back to baseline.
Yeah. But if this person is just somebody who's like on a diet, wants to track their macros, if you weigh your food in general, you probably can just estimate whatever you've eaten at the restaurant. You know, like, okay, I eat pasta sometimes. This looks like about a cup of pasta. Right. And just guess. And it's not that important.
Let me pull back the curtain even further. Even if you are meticulously weighing your food out at home,
it's not going to be 100%.
Not 100% accurate. It is never going to be, because nutrition labels are just estimates of what they think. No one is doing the direct science that is necessary to understand what 1 gram of this product is in terms of calories, which are energy. That is a very intensive process. So they're doing estimates, and they're saying this is probably what 1 serving is in terms of calories. Right. But we are never going to know that. It's, again, you have to kind of accept the social contract of, I'm going to try and track my food, but there's going to be 20% in there that's going to be plus or minus. That's why it's so important to not set a hard and fast, I eat 3,000 calories a day, I eat 250 grams of protein. You have to have a sliding scale. Yeah. Some days are going to be off, up or down.
And that's fine.
That is fine, but it's about taking averages.
Right. It all comes out in the wash.
It is the long form view, which is the best way to look at a body composition change. This is why I always preach time. I always preach give yourself as much time as possible, because in the long form, if you eat 3,500 calories and 2,800 calories, you're going to come down to an average over the week. Right. That's why it's important. Right. I think that you, like you said, you can definitely do this. But
you can.
This is a red flag for me.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
This is a red flag for me in terms of disordered eating patterns. Now, I'm not saying he has an eating disorder. Right. Disordered eating and eating disorder are 2 different things. Like, I have disordered eating patterns. I don't know if I've never been formally diagnosed, but I do have a binge eating tendency.
You certainly do.
Right? I know that about myself, and I try and implement strategies to remove myself from the binge eating. But every now and again, no matter what I do, it feels like I just kind of lose control of myself and I go, right? So I would recommend with anybody, the pursuit of a body composition change is a noble pursuit. I'm not going to say that that's wrong, right? I love that aspect of humans, the ability to change. That's why I'm a coach. But it has to be done with self-awareness. And it has to be done with, why am I pursuing this body composition change? And in my pursuit of this body composition change, am I going to extreme lengths that are going to remove quality of life for me? It's like we talked about a couple weeks ago.
You have to do things in a way that are going to be sustainable.
That's the truth. That's another great thing. And what's awesome about that statement is that most of the time when we look at long-term weight loss, when they have been done in clinical studies, the sustainability aspect has been extremely correlated with the ability to keep the weight off.
Right. I think that's sustainability is where a lot of diets fall apart.
That is the key.
And it sounds like he's so burnt out, like almost the way the question was worded was like, I went out for dinner. Do I have to weigh out my pasta? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
You don't. You don't have to do that. He almost just sounds tired.
Yeah.
From the way that it's worded. Maybe I'm reading into that, but
well, I think that there's definitely something to that. Like, there is such a thing as diet fatigue, like we've talked about. But I think the other part about this is it's hard as a person in this guy's friend group or in this person's social circle to see this and not immediately think like,
what's going on here?
This is kind of weird, right? Yeah. I will say that there is a time and a place for honesty, but honesty without compassion is just cruelty. So part of what I've been trying to build in my business and with my relationships is I coach my family, I coach my parents, and trying to understand that there's 2 sides to this. There is the want to make a change, and the want from me as the coach to say, honestly, stop eating. But that is so cruel without the compassion to look at the entire context. So if you're out to dinner with somebody like this, and I don't love telling people to diagnose their friends, but if you see these patterns, it might be time to talk to them about getting a little bit of help. And again, honesty without compassion is cruelty. So don't just be like, what the hell are you doing?
Stop doing that.
Right. Because that can then push us even further into the disordered eating patterns, right?
Yeah.
This is, again, another very complex topic. And this is why we have these long form conversations. And I just also want to say that neither of us are mental health professionals. We're coming at this from personal experience, and I'm coming at this from a coach's experience. So that's a disclaimer for you. But also, if you're in your community and you notice something like this, some people need a little bit of help.
Like, hey, I'm worried about you. You doing okay?
Come to it from a place of compassion. But this right here, if I was out to dinner with this guy and he pulled out a scale, I would want to have a discussion about why he's doing this thing. Yeah. And is this causing a lower quality of life outside of your pursuit of a body that you want? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel bad for him.
You can have fitness goals and physique goals, and you can still have fun on a Saturday night.
Dude, look at me. You know? Yeah. Like I am relentlessly pursuing my physique and strength goals. Relentlessly.
You've brought your own food over to a friend's house.
I have done this. And all the time.
And you were in competition prep at the time. Right. But you also had a cookie. Yeah. While you were there.
True. Right. That's true. And I'm not a bodybuilder, so my nutrition wants and needs are different.
But you were trying to hit weight.
I was trying to hit a certain weight, but I'm not trying to get to a certain level of leanness. Right. Right. 240 pounds, which was my weight class, versus
you couldn't
4% body fat.
You couldn't go to, we were going to have mac and cheese and barbecue brisket. You could not eat that at the time. Right. And make weight for your competition. Right. Right. So you brought your own dinner, but you had a small amount of dessert. Yeah. Right. And so there can be balance if you do need to do some things temporarily that are a bit extreme. Yeah. There is still a way to have balance and not get mentally burnt out and try and fight some, potential bad habits from forming.
I think that's the key word is balance there. Yeah. And usually when I am out of balance, that's when my binge eating tendencies begin to take over. It's when I have over dieted. It's when I am so deep in a deficit that I will binge on food that I don't even enjoy. I'll sit at the pantry and just eat 3 slices of bread. And then it'll turn into 4 slices of bread and then 5. And then it's like I've lost control there. Right. Yeah. So, again, this is a really complex topic and I'm glad that we had the discussion, but we could talk about this for hours and hours and not hit every piece of nuance. So just, it's a good introduction to this conversation. If you are experiencing some things that may be red flags for you in terms of some disordered eating patterns.
And don't be afraid to talk to somebody.
Talk to somebody. That's what I was going to say.
If you're worried about something or you see yourself going down a certain path, just talk to someone.
Yes. Registered dietitians, mental health professionals. These are your people.
It can be a friend who you trust. It can be your mom.
Exactly.
Or it can be your neighbor.
Because it may. Yeah. We also need to be very clear that, like I said, there's a difference between disordered eating and an eating disorder. So it could be that you are noticing some tendencies in yourself that you don't really like, but are not all the way to
they're
eating
not
disorder.
Yet pathological.
Exactly.
But you're concerned
in
about
that case,
potential.
Discussing something with your mom or a friend that you trust is an incredible resource. Yeah. Right. And then from their perspective, they may recommend, hey, this is out of my depth. You're going to need to go talk to somebody who has a little bit more understanding and qualification to actually have these discussions. Yeah. It's a tough thing, but it's part of our modern life. We live in a very, figure centric and body centric world. And I wrestle with these things as a coach all the time. It's like, I want you to make a change because I want you to be healthier and happier. But at the same time, mental health is also very important. So if I'm pushing someone on a diet and I notice some of these things, it's on me to make that change. And it's on every coach. if you're dealing with a coach and you feel like you're being over dieted or you're being pushed in a direction that you don't want to be, you have to communicate with them. Talk to them and tell them, hey, this is really pushing me in a way that I don't want to be. My relationship with food is changing in a way that I don't want it to change. Can we talk about other strategies?
Yeah. And your coach should be willing to have that dialogue with
If they're not,
find a different
you got to
coach.
find a different coach.
Yeah.
100%.
Because you're a team with your coach.
Exactly. And there's something like, a lot of times they do know more than you, but if they are not coming at this problem from a position of empathy and from a position of, okay, let's try a different strategy. If they are so focused on there's only one way to do thing, red flag,
they're wrong.
Find somebody else. Honestly, you have to leave them because they're never going to change their coaching philosophy. If they're so dug in,
and that works for some people.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It might not work for you.
That's the other thing, is it may not be insidious.
It's just like you have to find like the right hairdresser who understands how you want your hair.
Exactly.
Or like you have to find the right.
They may not be coming from a place of negativity. This has worked for a bunch of people and they say, I know what I'm doing. You got to do this. This is the way.
Yeah, it's like,
this doesn't work for me.
Doesn't work for me. Okay.
Get on out of there. And they should understand that.
Yeah, it's like you have to find the right doctor. You have to find the right, different professionals in your life. There's a lot of hairdressers out there. There's a lot of doctors out there. There's a lot of coaches out there.
Truth.
You can find one who you vibe with, who you can have the kind of relationship that you want to have.
Relationship is also incredibly important.
Yeah, and you can find the right dynamic sometimes, or like I don't know. I know some people who have had to shop around to find the right therapist.
Yeah.
That's normal.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Everyone on my side of the aisle, on the coach's side, we understand that.
Yeah.
I am a great coach. I know that about myself.
Yeah.
Your denial of my services is not going to hurt me.
No.
I want you to make the change. And I may be the person for you, or I may not be the person for you. Just continue to look. That's totally fine.
It's cool.
I love that.
Yeah.